and offer the resolution that was previously noticed.
The clerk will report the resolution.
House Resolution 939, resolved that Donald John Trump, President of the United States, is an abuser of presidential power who, if left in office, will continue to promote the incitement of violence, engender invidious hate, undermine our democracy, and dissolve our republic, that he is impeached for high crimes and misdemeanors, and that the following articles of impeachment be exhibited to the United States Senate. Articles of impeachment exhibited by the House of Representatives of the United States of America. In the name of itself and of the people of the United States of America, against Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America, in maintenance and support of its impeachment against him for high crimes and misdemeanors. Article 1, abuse of presidential power by calling for the execution of members of Congress. In his conduct of the office of the President of the United States, Donald John Trump, in violation of his constitutional oath, to faithfully execute the office of President of the United States and to the best of his ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States, and in violation of his constitutional duty to take care that the laws be faithfully executed, has unfaithfully, dangerously, and unconstitutionally abused his official position by threatening Democratic lawmakers in Congress with execution. President Trump called for the execution of 6 Democratic lawmakers, all of whom are currently serving in the U.S. Senate or U.S. House of Representatives, and who previously served in the U.S. military or in U.S. intelligence communities, in response to a short video that they posted on November 18th, 2025. In their video, the Democratic lawmakers appropriately urged current members of the military and intelligence communities to adhere to the Constitution and the laws of our country. They specifically said, like us, you all swore an oath to protect and defend the Constitution. Right now, the threats to our Constitution aren't just coming from abroad, but from right here at home. Our laws are clear. You can refuse illegal orders. You can refuse illegal orders. You must refuse illegal orders. No one has to carry out orders that violate the law or our Constitution. On November 20th, 2025, in response, President Trump called for their execution. In one social media post he wrote, "It's called seditious behavior at the highest level. Each one of these traitors to our country should be arrested and put on trial. Their words cannot be allowed to stand. We won't have a country anymore. An example must be set. President DJT." In another, he wrote of the lawmakers, seditious behavior, punishable by death. Dangerously and unconstitutionally, he reposted a third party's post, "Hang them, George Washington Wood." President Trump's call for the execution of lawmakers is a reckless and flagrant abuse of presidential power that promotes extrajudicial punishment and the assassination of members of Congress, and warrants impeachment by the U.S. House of Representatives and trial by the Senate. Article 2, abuse of presidential power to intimidate federal judges in violation of the separation of powers and independence of the judiciary. In his conduct of the office of President of the United States, Donald John Trump, in violation of his constitutional oath to faithfully execute the office of President of the United States and to the best of his ability preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States, and in violation of his constitutional duty to take care that the laws be faithfully executed, has unfaithfully, dangerously, and unconstitutionally abused his official position by threatening federal judges. President Trump has fostered a political climate in which lawmakers and judges face threats of political violence and physical assault, and in this climate has made threats and vituperatively comments against federal judges, putting at risk their safety and well-being and undermining the independence of our judiciary. Case in point, in response to a federal district court ruling which President Trump disagreed, he posted, "This radical left lunatic of a judge, a troublemaker and agitator who sadly appointed by Barack Hussein Obama was not elected president. This judge, like many of the crooked judges I am forced to appear before, should be impeached." Another U.S. district chief judge has reported receiving increased numbers of violent threats, particularly after he began hearing arguments in a lawsuit against the Trump administration. In 2025, roughly a third of the federal judiciary has been flooded with threats, with data showing that these threats spike each time Trump uses abusive rhetoric against judges. On May 2nd, 2025, Reuters reported that U.S. Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson addressed President Donald Trump's attacks on the judiciary. The relevant part of the article stated as follows. 1. U.S. Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson said on Thursday, attacks by Republican President Donald Trump and his allies on judges were not random and seemed designed to intimidate the judiciary. 2, specifically, U.S. Supreme Court Justice Jackson remarked that the attacks are not random. They seem designed to intimidate those of us who serve in this critical capacity. 3, Justice Jackson added, the threats and harassment are attacks on our democracy, on our system of government, and they ultimately risk undermining our Constitution and the rule of law. The judiciary is afforded power over all cases in law and equity arising under this Constitution, the laws of the United States and treaties made, and to controversies to which the United States shall be made a party. United States Constitution, Article 3, Section 2, intimidating judges and recklessly calling for impeachment and removal of judges who disagree with him, demonstrate a willingness by Trump to usurp authority afforded by our Constitution to the judiciary, and demonstrate a disregard for the Constitution and the careful balance of powers that protects our country from abuses by any single branch. President Trump's threats place the lives of federal judges, court officials, and innocent bystanders at risk, promote the incitement of violence, and undermine our democracy, which cannot survive where President Trump's incendiary comments endeavor invidious hate and where dissent is punishable by death. In all of this, Donald John Trump has acted in a manner contrary to his trust as president and subversive of constitutional government, to the great prejudice of the cause of law and justice, and to the manifest injury of the people of the United States. Wherefore, Donald John Trump, by such conduct, warrants impeachment, trial, and removal from office.
The resolution qualifies. For what purpose does the gentleman from Louisiana seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I have a motion at the desk.
The clerk will report the motion.
Mr. Scalise of Louisiana moves to lay the resolution on the table.
The question is on the motion to lay the resolution on the table. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The motion is adopted.
I call for a
what
vote.
purpose
I
does the
call
gentleman
for a
from
vote.
Texas seek recognition?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I call for a vote.
Is the gentleman asking for the yeas and the
I'm
nays?
asking for the yeas and nays, Mr. Speaker.
The yeas and nays are requested. Those favoring a vote by the yeas and nays will rise. A sufficient number having risen, the yeas and nays are ordered. Members will record their votes by electronic means. Pursuant to Clause 9 of Rule 20, this 15-minute vote on the motion to table will be followed by 5-minute votes on passage of H.R. 3628 and passage of H.R. 3638. This is a 15-minute vote.
Hi, everyone. This is Jessica Denson, host of Lights On. You are currently witnessing the motion to table Representative Green's 2 articles of impeachment against Donald J. Trump for threatening to execute Democratic lawmakers and threatening federal judges. This is a motion to table. You heard Representative Steve Scalise call for a motion to table, which is always the first move they pull. They don't even want to bring these articles to discussion on the floor of the House, so they are voting to table it. The yay votes are in favor of voting to table it, so that is essentially a vote against hearing these articles of impeachment. The nay votes are voting to move it forward. Those nay votes are essentially votes in favor of these articles of impeachment and hearing them. Currently, the vote is at 29 Republicans yay, 2 Democrats yay, and 3 Democrats nay. We will continue to see. The last time Representative Al Green forced an article of impeachment over the summer, there were only 78 Democrats who voted with him to advance that article of impeachment, not to table it. Let's see how that measures up with this vote today. Again, this is Jessica Denson, host of Lights On, founder of the Removal Coalition. We are currently witnessing the vote on a motion to table Representative Al Green's 2 new articles of impeachment against Donald J. Trump, one for threats to execute Democratic members of Congress, the other for threatening federal judges. This motion to table was brought up by Representative Steve Scalise. This is the first move that they always pull on articles of impeachment. They do not want to bring it to the floor for debate, so they vote to table it. The yay votes, as you can see from a majority or all of the voting Republicans so far, are to table those articles of impeachment. So far, 25 Democrats have voted nay on the motion to table. That is, a nay vote is a positive vote in support of bringing these articles to the floor. Four Democrats have voted with Republicans so far to table the articles of impeachment. So I'm joined today by President of Free Speech for People and constitutional scholar John Bonifaz. He is here watching the vote live with me. John, if you can unmute yourself, we can bring you into the discussion and talk about what we're witnessing here. Welcome to Lights On, John. You know what? I think we're going to have to wait, John, to bring you in until after the vote. John is going to join me as soon as this vote is over to discuss everything we've just witnessed. John has been instrumental in helping Representative Al Green get these articles drafted and brought to the floor and brought to a vote. He has been instrumental in our fight at the Removal Coalition as a partner. We just were in Washington, D.C. together. We had a press conference on November 20th. It was the first event of our Remove the Regime protest. And at that press conference, Representative Al Green joined me and John to announce that he would be forcing this vote, that he would be filing these articles. He made this commitment to us as part of Remove the Regime. And what you're seeing today is his follow through on that commitment. Imagine that, a representative of Congress keeping their word and honoring their oath. There is no excuse for any sitting member of Congress who has taken an oath to uphold, to support, and defend the Constitution against enemies, foreign and domestic, to not be supporting the furtherance of these articles of impeachment today. We had a resounding mandate at Remove the Regime. Tens of thousands of people flooded the streets of Washington, D.C. with one unified, unmistakable demand: impeach, convict, remove. Impeach, convict, remove. Unmistakable message from every speaker, from January 6th Capitol Police officers, heroes and survivors, from pastors, from veterans, from musicians and comedians and artists, from true American patriots across the spectrum, came out on November 20th and through 22nd in Washington, D.C. for Remove the Regime with a clear and unmistakable mandate for impeachment and removal of this regime. We are no longer satisfied with watching as our Constitution and our country goes up in flames. We are demanding action, and impeachment is the constitutional remedy for that. I will say, watching this vote, it's promising that that Democratic number is staying low, or I actually just saw it go down on the yays, which is a positive thing. As I will remind you, any yay vote is a vote to table, so the nay votes are what we're looking for here. But we're already up to 56, 57 nays on the Democratic side. Last time Representative Al Green forced a vote on his articles of impeachment, it was only 78 nays. I think we can expect that number to surpass 78 today. So right now you see the time remaining at the bottom is 0. This initially was at 15 minutes. They will hold that probably another 15 minutes or so to let the remaining members that have not yet voted to vote. There's still about half of the chamber or more that has still not voted. And we're waiting for those votes to come in. As we are waiting, that number that I gave you a few minutes ago, 78, has just been surpassed. The nay votes, the votes to actually further these articles of impeachment, has just been surpassed by Democrats. We are up to 84. This is the direct result. This is the direct result of our activism. This is the direct result of our protest. To anyone who says that protests don't matter, that they don't make a difference, this is living proof that they absolutely make a difference. And not to mention, we at the Removal Coalition have made a very explicit point of making sure that our protests have a point and have a demand to them. This is the direct result of that. Yesterday in the House of Representatives, 3 new articles of impeachment were on file against this administration. These that we see here today from Representative Al Green, as well as articles of impeachment against Secretary Hegseth for murder and conspiracy to murder, and articles against RFK Jr. by Representative Haley Stevens. We are normalizing the remedy for a lawless administration and a lawless presidency. Anybody who says this doesn't matter is not understanding the impact of we the people, the pressure that we have brought to bear upon these lawmakers. And this vote, regardless of the actual numerical outcome or whether it passes today, is absolutely vital in putting the American people on and the members of Congress on notice as to where they stand, and forcing them, based on the stand they do or do not take today, to change their votes in the future or be kicked out of office. That is the clear mandate that we witnessed at Remove the Regime. It is the clear preference of a majority of this country. Polling has showed on repeated occasions for Donald Trump and this administration to be impeached. That is what we are witnessing. It is very, very important. It is very significant, and it is a huge win for the removal coalition and for everyone that has been fighting for impeachment, including one of the most ardent fighters. My guest today, John Bonifaz, the president of Free Speech for People, who is going to join us as soon as this vote wraps up. Again, this is Jessica Denson. We're witnessing the live vote on articles of impeachment filed by Representative Al Green. This is the motion to table. So all of those Republican votes, the 187 voting yay, are voting yay to table, which is essentially a vote against furthering the articles. Democrats, 24 Democrats, we will like to see who those Democrats are, have joined Republicans in voting to table. Wow, look at that. We just had one Republican vote nay. That is a positive vote for furthering articles of impeachment. Let's see if that sticks. There was one of those earlier that went in and edited their vote. Currently, we have 128 nay Democrats. This is already massively improved since the last time a article of impeachment was voted on, since Representative Green forced a vote on his articles of impeachment as he has this time. Also, take a look at those present and not voting in the Democratic column. 38 and 17. Those numbers are moving, but that's very interesting that you have that many members of the Democratic Party simply not voting or voting present. Keep an eye on all those numbers. One result we saw of these forced votes last time it happened was that immediately in the aftermath, hearing the outrage of their constituents, in particular the Democrats who had voted to table the previous articles of impeachment, some of them very vocally came out and changed their position. One of them was Representative Andre Carson. I actually heard directly from Representative Al Green this morning that Representative Carson this time joined on immediately as a co-sponsor to these articles of impeachment. So Representative Andre Carson is a co-sponsor officially. That is the impact of public pressure. That is the impact of having these votes public, of putting the names on the record. It is incredibly important. This is democracy in progress that you are watching. This is not an academic exercise. This is the constitutional remedy for everything that we're witnessing, for everything that you hear diagnosed by the majority of Democrats on a daily basis. If they want to actually do something about it, this is the something about it. Those stars that you like to hear get on cable news and go on social media that get lots of likes, they don't measure up in any regard to what is happening today, to what Representative Al Green has done. He has actually put the action to match the words. He has given the remedy to what we're dealing with, not just the diagnosis, and every single one of them should be joining him. So far, we've got 140. We've got 26 names that, as far as I'm concerned, will go down in infamy in the Democratic Party who have voted with Republicans so far to table this motion. And just as a reminder, this is literally articles that are about this illegal and tyrannical president threatening the lives of these very people, of members of Congress, and of federal judges. That's how serious this vote is. This vote is very close to wrapping up. There's only 11 votes missing from the chamber currently. If you look at the no votes column 8 and 3, this is truly remarkable. We have come from 78 Democrats over the summer voting in favor of impeachment to now 140, a milestone improvement. On deck, we have John.
The yeas are 237, the nays are 140, and there are 47 voting present. The motion is adopted without objection. The motion to reconsider is laid on the table. Pursuant to Clause 8 of Rule 20, the unfinished business is the vote on passage of H.R. 3628, on which the yeas and nays are ordered. The clerk will report the title of the bill.
Union Calendar Number 260, H.R. 3628, a bill to amend the Public Utility Regulatory Policies Act of 1978 to add a standard related to state
And there you have it. The vote on Representative Al Green's articles of impeachment. I'm going to bring in my friend John Bonifaz right away to just break this all down for you. John, welcome back to Lights On.
Thank you, Jessica. Great to be with you.
So I obviously have thoughts on this, but I know you do too. And I want to hear right off the bat what you're thinking.
This was a fantastic vote, Jessica. This demonstrates the power of this movement for all of your listeners, for all the people all across the country who've engaged in demanding that Congress do its job and defend the Constitution at this critical hour for our nation. With this champion, Congressman Al Green, in the U.S. House forcing this vote, we have nearly doubled the number of members of Congress who are now on record calling for impeaching and removing this lawless president. This demonstrates the power of people organizing, speaking up, making their voices heard. That's how this happened. This did not happen in a vacuum. In June, there was a vote on the illegal and unconstitutional bombing of Iran as an abuse of power and impeachable offense that Congressman Green forced. 78 of his colleagues joined. Congressman Andre Carson joined the next day as a co-sponsor. Today, he shows up as a co-sponsor of these articles, and 140 total members of Congress are calling for impeachment. The other thing to highlight is that the number of those voting present within the Democratic caucus is greater than the number of those voting no. So that also demonstrates the power of this movement, because those who voted present, they know that if they vote no, they're going to hear from their constituents. So they're trying to toe that line. You know, they don't have the courage.
They should hear from them anyway.
They should hear from them anyway. Absolutely.
Yeah.
They don't have the courage to vote no to table, which would be to advance these articles. But again, it shows the power of this movement. And I think it's an historic day, and the fight will continue. Congressman Green has pledged to continue this with new forced votes. And frankly, other members of Congress need to now step up, introduce their own articles of impeachment, and force new floor votes. But this is a great day for our democracy and our Constitution.
Absolutely, it is. And you have been at the forefront of this fight with your Impeach Trump Again petition that Free Speech for People launched on day one of this illegal presidency, beginning with the emoluments violations, the pardoning of individuals convicted of seditious conspiracy. As you mentioned, there is a multitude of impeachable offenses that other members of Congress could be filing their own articles on, forcing their own votes on. If they don't like this one, file your own. I think you've got up to 25, including an article for treason. This is extremely, extremely serious. Let's just address for a minute the naysayers and the people who say impeachment is never going to happen. This doesn't matter. This is a spectacle. I mean, to me, this is the real deal. Anything else going on is a spectacle. And I consider it a spectacle that anybody is not taking this conversation seriously. But just help me address some of those naysayers.
Well, look, we've heard it before, right? These naysayers have been there before. They say there's no point in having this vote when the votes aren't there to pass the articles. They say it's not the time to cast this vote. We should not be having this debate at all. And they say that, frankly, Donald Trump was impeached twice before, was not convicted. We need to move on from impeachment. And what we have been saying from day one on this question is, number one, we either have a constitution or we don't. We either have an impeachment clause or we don't. If we're not going to invoke the impeachment clause at this critical hour for our nation, then we might as well say we're giving up on the Constitution, and we refuse to give up on the United States Constitution. Number two, when we do not name these actions for what they are, high crimes against the state, then we normalize this conduct. We refuse to normalize these high crimes. And number three, members of Congress take the very same oath that Donald Trump took on January 20th, 2025, to protect and defend the Constitution. They have a duty, a sworn duty, to do that and to invoke this impeachment power today.
Absolutely. And let's talk for a minute about one thing that you and I have discussed at length in previous episodes, and that is how much popular support there is for impeachment of Trump. This is not a fringe issue. This is what the majority of the country is wanting their elected representatives to do. Absolutely.
So there was a poll done by ASO Communications and Research Collaborative back in April, demonstrating that 52% of the public overall already supported impeachment at that moment. 84% of Democrats, 55% of independents, 20% of Republicans. And yet, as the polling agency that did that, ASO Communications and Research Collaborative, said in their analysis, these numbers were at the same level, Jessica, as to where those numbers were during the impeachment trials against Trump in 2019 and 2021. So without any mainstream media coverage of this particular impeachment fight right now, without any major debate in the U.S. Congress other than the one that Congressman Green is forcing, there already are these numbers of people ready to impeach and remove this president. Why is that? Because they see with their own eyes all of these abuses of power happening in live stream, in on the social media, on their screen. They see these kidnappings of people off the streets and sending them to foreign torture prisons. They see the levying of war against the United States, individual states, and their people, against civilians for exercising their First Amendment rights, mobilizing the U.S. military into our cities, treason, the highest crime of all. They see people being removed, illegally detained and removed without due process of law. They see the attack on the U.S. Congress with duly appropriated funds being frozen. They see the attack on the judiciary with defying multiple court orders. They see this threat to execute members of Congress. They see the threat to judges to intimidate judges. They see the pardoning of 1,500 insurrectionists for the insurrection that Donald Trump, incited on January 6, 2021, for trying to block the peaceful transfer of power. They see the rampant corruption out of the Oval Office, treating the Oval Office as a profit-making enterprise at the public expense, violating the domestic and foreign emoluments clauses. These are abuses of power. These are high crimes against the state, and the American public already sees this. So imagine for the moment, if we had other members of Congress join Al Green in making this case. Imagine if we had shadow hearings that these members held. They don't need to wait for the Republicans to organize and hold hearings. They can hold shadow hearings. They can bring witnesses before their body, and they can have the public hear about all these high crimes. Imagine if they were doing their job to educate the American public as to why we got to stand up for our Constitution at this very moment. We would see these numbers grow even further. So the fact that there are 140 members today who have voted to advance articles of impeachment is because we, the people, have spoken. More than 1 million signed on and impeach Trump again. Tens of thousands have joined you in the streets with Remove the Regime. This is the response that we get when we stand up and fight for our democracy and our republic.
Absolutely. This is a direct result of our movement. And as you said, the only reason it is not bigger, the only reason we seem stuck in this insanity is because there is not more sunlight. The lights are not on in so many other places where they should be. And you know, John, I have showed up at these press conferences with you. I have been unequivocal about how I believe any members of Congress, including those Democrats that voted to table today, are complicit in the crimes
Absolutely.
against democracy. They are complicit
Absolutely.
because they are not. And you know who else is complicit? The media, who is not covering this. Anyone with a major platform who claims to be pro-democracy, who is not covering this critical, literally the conversation about how we save our republic, is complicit right now. They have
Yes.
the power to amplify
I
this
agree, but I
conversation.
think what we're going to see after today is more coverage. I
I
do
think
believe
so
that
too. I
because
think
they're
so
not
too.
going to be able to ignore these 140 votes. Before they said it was such a lopsided vote. This was not lopsided.
No,
You look at
not
the
at all.
margin between those who voted to table and those who voted no, with all those people voting present, it
Yeah.
did not mean a lopsided vote. And look, I do think those who voted the wrong way, whether they be Democrats, Republicans, or independents, they need to hear from us.
Yes.
Where are you?
Absolutely. All of
in
them.
your sworn
Paul,
duty?
don't not call them because you have a Republican representative. This is
Right.
on all of them. And
All of
believe
them.
me, privately, we have spent a lot of time in our advocacy with the Removal Coalition, going in with our partners into the halls of Congress directly. And believe me, when you interact with these staffers and even at times with members on the Republican side, these people are living in fear. They're living in misery. I don't know if they're being threatened with blackmail or what it is that has kept them in this grasp of this lunatic, deranged, illegal president for so long. But these people know. The Republicans themselves know. And there's got to be a breaking point with the adequate amount of pressure. I was just looking up. I'm like, what's the population of the United States? 342 million people. Over 50% of that population wants this president removed. And
Correct.
we can't move a mere 400 people in one body and, or we only need a majority. So 200 and some and 60 some in another. That those hundreds of millions that constitute the majority that want him removed cannot move a few hundred people in Washington, D.C. I'm not satisfied with accepting that construct.
No, I'm not either. And to highlight that further, right, it takes 218 to pass articles of impeachment. We are 78 votes away. We have 140. We're 78 votes away. We're going to keep pushing this. And look, there is a person here who had the courage to stand up, Congressman Al Green. He is the one who made this tally happen. This vote would not have been forced, were it not for Congressman Al Green. There are plenty of people who will say, oh, I'm for that, but they didn't go out and introduce articles of impeachment. They didn't go out and force that floor vote. And so now that test needs to be applied to the other 139. I think they need to be applauded for their vote with Al Green, but they need to be asked, where are you on your plan to introduce articles of impeachment and to force a new floor vote? These votes need to be happening, frankly, on a daily basis. There is no reason why we can't chew gum and walk at the same time here. I know there are other policy debates people want to have and should have, but we need to have this debate on a daily basis in the U.S. House of Representatives as to why this president needs to be impeached or removed from public office. There's so much emphasis on those poor two survivors of that boat strike getting hit again, with a strike and a bombing and missile. But what about the entire operation of murder on the high seas?
86, at least.
Right. I mean, what about the fact these are all extrajudicial killings?
100%.
These are the highest crimes. Where are the members of Congress standing up saying, I'm going to introduce articles of impeachment on that? I mean, look, there's plenty to go around here. A daily basis needs to happen in terms of this debate, and that's what we should be demanding.
100%. And of course, Representative Sri Tanadar filed articles of impeachment against Pete Hegseth for what you just mentioned, murder and conspiracy to murder. I had him on the program yesterday. I asked him both why he didn't impeach Trump as well. He said he intends to on these matters. I asked him why he didn't follow through on his promise to invoke Rule 9 and really, laid all of the respectful pressure I could on him to invoke that. He basically gave the excuse of his colleagues in so many words, giving him every excuse in the book before for why they shouldn't be put on the record, really to cover their own asses, excuse my language. That was the only reason that it boils down to. But he should be forcing a vote. Also, Representative Haley Stevens that brought articles of impeachment against RFK Jr. yesterday should be forcing a vote. And as you mentioned, more members should be joining this. That was what we did after Remove the Regime. We said, listen, it's at removetheregime.com right now. I said, listen, it is what we did on those 3 days in Washington, D.C. was not a 3-day event or a 1-day rally with tens of thousands of people. That was a mandate. And you can take that mandate. You can claim that agency that we so beautifully demonstrated over those 3 days, and you take it to members of Congress. It is living right now, that mandate, and you demand action. You demand that more articles of impeachment be filed. We've got, Representative Al Green framed this as a Christmas gift. And what could be a better Christmas gift than representatives honoring their oath to the Constitution by filing their own articles of impeachment before Christmas as well?
Absolutely. And look, the headline out of this ought to be, in part, right? The movement demanded this, and the people, reacted in Congress to that demand. But the second headline ought to be the vast majority of the Democratic caucus signed on today in the call for impeachment. You can look at that present vote and you can recognize they were too scared to vote yes to table. So what that meant is 140 to something like 20 some on the Democratic side voting to table. That's a lopsided vote the complete other way for advancing articles of impeachment in the Democratic caucus. Now, these Republicans, they need to be held to account as well. Not a single one of them voted to switch, their blind loyalty to this lawless president and stand up for the Constitution. Not a single one of them stood up. But I think we need to celebrate what we have all together, this movement, accomplished to get to this point, and we will keep fighting. We will keep pushing this, and we will keep demanding that members of Congress do their sworn duty and uphold the Constitution and invoke this impeachment power.
Absolutely. Let me just play for a moment before we wrap up this, a quick 1-minute speech that Representative Al Green gave on the floor of the House this morning.
Mr. Speaker, and still I rise to announce that last night I called for the impeachment of Donald John Trump, President of the United States of America, for threatening judges and for calling for the execution of members of Congress. If ever there was a person who ought to be impeached, it's Donald John Trump. Now, there are many people who don't want to see this happen. They don't want to vote for impeachment. Well, there were people who didn't want to cross the Edmund Pettus Bridge, but they marched on. I shall march on. I've been told that this vote will take place sometime after 1:30 today. I assure you I'll be here for that vote. I will also speak on Friday for about 1 hour after about 11 o'clock. I will explain more about it at that time. This president is a reckless, ruthless, lawless person who doesn't deserve the title of President of the United States of America. I yield back.
And there you have it.
Such a powerful speech and such a powerful member of Congress and an extraordinary human being. And I'm so proud that we were able to work with him in helping to draft these articles. I'm so proud that he marched with you so many times, Jessica. Look, this is what we need. We need that kind of leadership. And I hope other members of Congress will now be inspired to see what they need to do and follow in his footsteps, stand up and invoke this impeachment power today.
Absolutely. So do I. Major, major progress. Congratulations to everybody who has been in this movement. Thank you. Thank you. You are showing what true democracy is, what true American patriotism is. You are making history. We are the ones that the history books are going to be written about when they ask who was standing up as democracy was going up in flames, as this 250-year experiment towards freedom and progress got threatened by this ludicrous, obscene, lawless administration. Who was standing up? You and I, we're standing up. You, my friends watching this, we're standing up. You are the ones standing in the breach. And if this democracy is going to be saved, it is going to be because of us and what we are doing right now.
Absolutely. You know, that famous line that Ben Franklin said when asked right after the Constitutional Convention was ending in 1787, well, doctor, what do we have? A monarchy or a republic? A republic, he said, if you can keep it. And that's what we're fighting to do right now. We're all fighting to keep it. That statement from Dr. Ben Franklin is as relevant today as it's ever been. We will fight to keep our republic, and we will keep fighting together.
I just got a phone call from Representative Green. He's on the phone. He's just going to give us a few words here live. Representative Green, you're live on Lights On. Great to hear from you.
Well, thank you for what you've done to bring this to fruition, and all of the people who've been with us, who are supportive of what we're doing. And I want to thank the 140 members of Congress who voted to keep impeachment alive. Those who voted nay were voting for the impeachment to move forward. So I thank them as well. And I look forward to saying a lot more to you about it at a later time. We're having 2-minute votes.
Thank you so much, Representative Green. Thank you for your call. And John and I are here, and thank you so much.
Oh, John, thank you so much. Gosh,
Thank you, Congressman.
Didn't say so earlier. I've got to go and vote. We got
Sure.
2-minute votes.
Okay, thank you for calling. So wonderful to hear from him. And he echoes the sentiment, of course, of being so grateful for those 140 colleagues on the Democratic side who joined him.
Yes. Yes. It's a fabulous moment, but it means we need to keep fighting, and we will.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you. Thank you so much, as always, John, for joining me. I encourage anyone who has not already signed your petition to go and do that now at impeachTrumpAgain.org. It's over 1 million signatures. We got to get it to many millions. So please,
Absolutely.
please share it. Please share this program. Please share the work that the Removal Coalition and Free Speech for People are doing. We're doing the work. So join us in amplifying it to make this difference, to make this salvation for our country happen. If you're not already subscribed to my channel, the YouTube, Jessica Denson YouTube channel, please do that now. I am dealing with all kinds of crazy suppression on this platform, so please help me combat that by subscribing, liking, sharing this content. And also, if you want to support my work, you can buy merch at thejessicadenson.com. We've got all the kinds of Remove the Regime merch, hoodies. They make great Christmas presents. You're not supporting any of the oligarchs who are supporting this administration. You're just supporting good activism that is truly pro-democracy. So you can do that all at thejessicadenson.com. Also, thejessicadenson.com/donate is directly to support my work. Thank you, everybody, so much. Thank you again, John. Thank you, Representative Al Green. And thank you to those members of Congress who stood on the right side of history today. Now we just need you to file your own articles, right?
That's right. Thank you, Jessica. We'll keep fighting. We'll keep fighting.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you,
now.
everybody. Have a wonderful day. And as always, let your light shine.